Okay, well, I am now 19 weeks today, and it's been quite a while since my last video. I've actually had a very persistent low mood, and so I think, perhaps it's pregnancy hormones, or, there's been a few sad things happen recently, but whatever it is, I thought this was an opportune moment to discuss some things about depression. Now, of course, there are those who have experienced clinical depression and anxiety, but I want to talk to everyone because we've all experienced low moods at some point and have had some difficult emotions to work through. So I have a few tips, 5 tips on how to deal with depression, not in a clinical sense. First of all, I do want to preface this with saying that, of course, if you are feeling really low, I would really highly encourage you to talk to your GP or a psychologist if you feel you need that additional support. There is, of course, the option of medication if there's a really big issue there. But for me, I think where you can avoid medication, if you can avoid it, it's good to avoid. Medication is a serious intervention, and for those who really, really need it. So the tips I've got today are obviously not going to be to do with medication, but some natural kind of self-care things we can do for ourselves. So my 5 tips are, number 1, drinking water. And I know this sounds so simple, but if I've had a big cry and then I drink some water, I just automatically start to feel a little bit better. So particularly if you're crying, you're kind of maybe getting dehydrated, there's a lot of liquid coming out of you, so replenishing that liquid back into your body. I think there's also something, apart from the fact that our bodies just need water, so we're probably all dehydrated most of the time because we tend to not drink enough water. But apart from that, there's just something about drinking the water that helps you to slow down, to slow your breathing. I just think that all works well together to help you settle your mind. So that's the first tip I've got. Tip number 2, having some kind of self-care ritual. So for me, when I'm feeling really low, I find a lot of comfort in feeling warm. Now, I don't know, maybe that's because it's winter at the moment for me, but if I have a hot shower, we have a really small bath, but if I had a big bath, I'd probably be having a bath, just to make me feel nurtured and safe. So I know I love hopping in the shower if I'm feeling low. But the other thing, because obviously you're going to run out of hot water at some point, so another thing I do as an alternative is having a nice warm herbal tea. So that always makes me, feel kind of warm and a little bit nurtured. All right, tip number 3, just eating healthy. And I know this has been done to death. You're probably already aware that there are some major health benefits of upping your fruit and veggie intake. And in fact, in many cases, particularly where it's mild depression, that can be incredibly effective and negate the need for medication. So it's certainly something to look at your diet, look at what you're eating, and see if you can inject some really healthy whole foods. Anything that's in a packet is probably not a whole food. So if you can get rid of the packets, or really try and increase the amount of food you're eating that is not from a packet, then you'll be knowing that that's healthy. So my little tip in regards to eating healthy, because I know it's a huge behavioural change to change your diet. I've struggled with it for the past 10 years. And that is to just pick one food, whether it's one particular fruit or vegetable that you like, you can eat it in a number of, different times of the day, or, whatever it is, easy to prepare, it's readily available most of the year, then that would be a good food to start with, and just try and eat that food every day. So it might be as simple as eating 1 apple a day and just making yourself eat that apple so that you feel like, yeah, I've got 1 vegetable, one fruit in my body, 1 whole food. For me, I mean, I like apples, but my other food is avocado, because I just know it's such a, it's so rich in nutrients that I really want to increase my intake of avocado. So I do aim for 1 a day. I'm not getting 1 a day, but I'm probably getting 1 every 2 or 3 days. So that's a good start for me. So pick 1 thing. Try to simplify your strategy. So yes, of course, we'd all love to eat a magnificently healthy food, and I'm sure if we all had a personal chef, we would, but we don't. So it's very, very normal to struggle with this a little, but pick 1 thing that you can do and that you can achieve. All right. Tip number 4, I'm sorry, another one that's been done to death is exercise. So again, you may already be aware that exercise is an excellent thing you can do to combat depression. It gets your body moving, gets your metabolism going, it increases endorphins, and it's just good for your body. But anything that's good for your body is probably going to be good for your mind, because they're just so connected, our mind and body. But the 2 little kind of tips about exercise that I wanted to add to this is, first of all, aim for something, particularly aim for incidental exercise. Incidental exercise is exercise that you kind of just do incidentally. So instead of parking at the front of the car park, park at the back, so that you incidentally will end up walking further, so you're getting a little bit more exercise. Taking the stairs instead of the lift. They're sorts of examples of incidental exercise. If you can walk somewhere rather than drive, then do that. So for me, again, it comes back to the principle of making it achievable, setting a goal that you know you can do and is realistic and achievable for you. So I particularly love walking. Now, generally, I don't completely love walking. I lie. I'm sorry. But when it has a purpose, I enjoy it. So just going for a random walk, I would find a little boring and not very motivated to do that. But we have dogs, and so I've reminded myself, well, the dogs need walking, so I need to walk the dogs. So that gives it a purpose. If the walk has a purpose, I'm good with it. So the other good thing about walking is that you're getting out of the house, you're getting out into the fresh air, and that can also be very good for your mind and body. So walking is a real favorite. I think it's a staple exercise that we should all be trying to do. If you hate walking, of course, pick something else. I just know that I found, you know, if I went to the gym or whatever, I would kind of go for a little bit and then I'd stop, and anyway. So, and I'm not a big fan of sweating, I know. So that's just me. But whereas if I go for a walk, I'm exercising without feeling like I'm exercising. So I love walking. I think it's a great one to start with. If you're not into exercise, make yourself walk, even if it's just 20 minutes a day, around the block, or go to a park and then walk around the park if you don't want hills. If there's hills near where you live, then find a park that's nice and flat and do a few laps. So, and it's also, you know, if you can find a walking buddy, that's awesome as well. Okay, tip number 5. And there are so many to choose from, but this one I had to, talk about because I think I have been using this quite a lot these past 4 weeks or so, and that is deep breathing. So we all need to breathe. We're already breathing, but particularly if you're having feeling very anxious, taking some long deep breaths can at least help. It certainly doesn't solve things for me if I'm in quite a state, but it does give me something to focus on. So, and it helps me to calm down. So that's my 5 steps or 5 tips for dealing with depression naturally. So we've got water, a self-care ritual, eating healthy food, exercise, and deep breathing. Now, just two other things I wanted to mention. Honorary mentions are sleep and getting enough light can also really help your mood. And I wanted to do a quick shout out for, I mean, there's a bunch of books available, but this one, it's really glary again. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, there we go. All right, so this one's called The Mind Body Mood Solution, and it's by Jeffrey Rossman, PhD. And this is a great book. I'm sure there's lots of other great books out there. So if you're looking for alternatives to medication, there's so much information out there to help you deal with depression. And of course, if you do need extra assistance, please, please, please see a professional who can help you. To see a psychologist, it's usually as simple as going to your GP and getting a referral, or you can just book an appointment privately. So just contacting them directly. So it's well, that's how it is in Australia anyway. So let me know, what are the ways you deal with when you're feeling low or anxious, particularly when pregnant. We've got a lot of hormones running around our body, and it can be a little overwhelming sometimes. Even the littlest things can be a trigger. So how do you deal with that? I'd love to hear from you, and so we can share our tips with each other. Okay, well, I'll hopefully see you sooner rather than later. I'm feeling a lot better, you know, now, and things are starting to progress. I'm actually feeling pregnant rather than just fat. So, so I'm feeling a little better physically and mentally as well. So I'll see you next time. Bye.